My wife, just awakened from her vegetative state, deleted all our interactions. She left only one, recently edited, post. The luckiest thing is to turn around and find someone waiting for you exactly where you left them. The accompanying picture showed her and her first love gazing deeply into each other's eyes while paragliding. I remained silent. My sensible son, Leo, had gone to find Eleanor at some point without me knowing. By the time I arrived, he had been tied to the bungee platform by Eleanor, who claimed he was disrespectful to his parents. My eyes burned with rage. I told her that Leo had a congenital heart condition and couldn't engage in extreme sports. Eleanor, however, intertwined her fingers with those of her first love, Ethan, and said dismissively, "He's only this ill-mannered because you've spoiled him rotten. How dare he, at such a young age, lecture his elders? Neither you nor I have any illnesses, so there's no way he could. Even if he did, perhaps a little shock would cure him." She had someone block my path, and coldly listened as Leo's cries grew fainter and fainter. 10 minutes later, she finally, in a show of false mercy, had him pulled up, facing, who was drenched in sweat, pale, and gasping for breath. Eleanor, arm in arm with her first love, walked away triumphantly, ignoring my fear of heights. I scooped up Leo and sprinted to the hospital. When I heard the news of his death, I couldn't hold back anymore, and broke down, sobbing uncontrollably as I called Grandpa. "Leo is dead, and Eleanor is awake. I believe I've repaid the kindness of your sponsorship, haven't I?" By the time Grandpa arrived at the hospital, Leo had already been moved to the morgue. He hesitated, then walked past me, and with trembling hands, lifted the sheet, his one straight back instantly hunched over. How could this be? Leo was just making this old man happy yesterday. What on earth happened? Grandpa's tears streamed down his face, and his cane thumped rhythmically on the floor. I snapped out of my grief, and let out a bitter laugh. It was Eleanor. Leo went to find her and Ethan, and she had him tied up, and pushed off the bungee platform. With every word, my heart felt like it was being repeatedly roasted in scorching oil, an agonizing torment. Grandpa's chest heaved with rage, and he cursed, "Beast! How could I have raised such a heartless child? Didn't she know Leo had a heart condition?" Meeting my despairing gaze, Grandpa was speechless. The morgue fell into a suffocatingly oppressive silence. It wasn't until the funeral home van arrived to take Leo away that I snapped out of my daze. I clutched his small body like a madman. "Leo isn't dead. He said last night he was going to give me a special birthday present. He can't be dead. You can't take him away. You can't take my Leo." The funeral home staff shook their heads and sighed, offering me their condolences one after another. "Please accept our sympathies." How can I accept my grief? I can't accept my grief. Seeing my distraught state, Grandpa came forward and took hold of me. "Leo was such a sensible boy. He wouldn't want you to grieve for him like this. Besides, he lived in the hospital his whole life, receiving treatment, never even seeing the world outside. Now he's finally free. It's a release." His words gradually calmed me, but my heart felt hollowed out. After the funeral home van left, Grandpa, his face grim, instructed his assistant behind him, "Call that beast. Tell her to come back for Leo's funeral, and repent at his grave." Before the call connected, he comforted me. "Don't worry, Grandpa will make sure she gives you an explanation." No sooner had he finished speaking than Eleanor's impatient voice came through the phone. "Grandpa, has that good-for-nothing come crying to you again? It's bad enough he's a grown man afraid of heights, but the child he sired is also useless. How could he possibly be an heir to the Vance family? I was just trying to toughen him up." "Enough." Grandpa cut her off, his voice weary. "You haven't fulfilled your responsibilities as a mother for 7 years, and you won't need to anymore. Eleanor, Leo's funeral is the day after tomorrow. Come back to pay him your final respects." Eleanor obediently agreed on the phone, then immediately called me, launching into a furious, unprovoked tirade. "James, as a mother, am I not allowed to give him a small lesson? Did you really have to run to Grandpa with this? And a funeral? All the children in the Vance family grew up this way, and none of them was so fragile they died. You're not even good at finding a believable lie." I listened in silence. When the dial tone sounded, I looked up at Grandpa, his voice choked, and he lamented with deep disappointment, "What a sin. This is truly a sin." Then, humbling himself, He pleaded with me. James, for the past 7 years, you've dedicated yourself to Eleanor's treatment and raised Leo alone. The kindness of sponsorship from back then has long been repaid. But William truly hopes you can grow old together with Eleanor. Please, give her one more chance. If she doesn't come to Leo's funeral, I will personally arrange for your divorce. The family built its fortune on extreme sports. To honor their origins, nearly all descendants were required to train in them from a young age. Ethan was Eleanor's coach, and also her first love. Tragically, 7 years ago, the Vance family faced a crisis. Seeing things turn sour, Ethan abandoned Eleanor and went abroad, causing her to lose focus during a paragliding session, resulting in full body fractures. To help her recover and to help Eleanor get back on her feet, Grandpa sought me out, who knew that after marriage, Eleanor not only failed to settle down, but grew even worse. Her body, which had never fully healed, suffered another severe blow. When was one? She became a complete vegetative state, lying in bed for 7 full years. For those 7 years, I spared no effort in treating her, and diligently raised Leo. I thought when Eleanor woke up, she would put the past behind her and cherish our family of 3. I never imagined her obsession with Ethan ran so deep, and I certainly never expected her to be responsible for the death of her own son. 8 years. Even a stone could be warmed in that time, but Eleanor's heart remained cold and hard. What more could I possibly expect? I opened my mouth to refuse, but stopped when I saw the old man's eyes. Overwhelmed with grief, "Grandpa," I said, "I'll agree to this one last time." Grandpa left, his eyes red-rimmed. I saw him off, then walked home numbly. Opening the door, I saw a pair of men's leather shoes in the entryway that weren't mine. Faint sounds of conversation drifted from the bedroom. "Eleanor, this is your and James' room. It's your family of 3's private space. Is it really okay for me to be here? Won't they be angry if they find out?" Eleanor scoffed. "What family of 3? Everyone in the Vance family excels at extreme sports, but James and his son are both afraid of heights. What right do those good-for-nothings have to be my husband and son?" As her voice faded, Ethan's soft laughter mingled with intimate sounds, and my blood ran cold. After a long moment, I let out a self-deprecating laugh and walked into the bedroom. The 2 in the room, their intimacy interrupted, turned their gazes to me in unison. Eleanor glared and snapped. No wonder Leo had no manners. Turns out you, his father, are no better. Don't you know how to knock before entering? Her insults were a daily occurrence, and I usually paid them no mind, yet had to bring up Leo repeatedly. In his last moments before he died, he was still holding my hand, and comforting me. "Dad, it was Leo who didn't listen. Don't blame Mom. Don't be angry with her. How could Eleanor have the heart to do this to such a sensible child?" Rage flared within me, and I kicked the bed hard, scoffing loudly. "Were you 2 so lost in your affair that you didn't hear me?" Eleanor, struck by shame and anger, slapped me hard across the face. "James, have I been too good to you, that you've lost all sense of yourself and dare to speak to me like that?" Ethan got up, solicitously rubbing Eleanor's hand, while hypocritically advising, "James, Eleanor's just upset. She didn't mean it. Don't be angry. It's not my place to say, but Leo is your own son. No matter what, you shouldn't joke about his life." I watched his lips buzz, speaking to me as if he were the master of the house, and I laughed, a bitter, angry laugh. What followed was a profound sense of helplessness. "Eleanor, whether you believe it or not, Leo is truly gone. If you have even a shred of conscience, you should go to his funeral, and pay him your final respects. This wasn't about me. I was simply thinking of Leo, hoping he would have his mother's presence on his final journey. It would be one final wish granted." Perhaps seeing the seriousness in my expression, Eleanor froze and unconsciously asked me, "Really?" Before I could answer, Ethan scoffed. "How is that possible? Bungee jumping is the simplest extreme sport. I've never heard of anyone dying from it. Besides, Leo was perfectly fine when we left, wasn't he?" His words reminded Eleanor. The worry on her face vanished, replaced by boundless fury. "James, I've given you a chance. If you continue to be so stubborn and uncooperative, don't blame me for being ruthless." It didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered anymore. From the moment Eleanor unhesitatingly believed Ethan, she and I were nothing more than strangers. I took a deep breath, went to the corner to pack up Leo's favorite toys, and as I turned to leave, Eleanor called out to me, "Leo's birthday is in a few days. I'll make time to take him to the amusement park. You two father and son should stop making a fuss." Every day, she had time to sneak around with Ethan. My son's birthday had been waited for 8 years, yet it still had to wait for her to make time. I pulled back the corner of my sleeve that Eleanor had grabbed and sneered, "No need." Then I left without looking back, letting her curse at me from behind, "You heartless wretch, you'd better stay this principled. Don't come crawling back like a pathetic worm begging me later." My love for Eleanor was known to all, and she knew it too. Leaning beside Leo's cold body, I suddenly felt like a joke. I could have lived a perfectly good life alone, yet I foolishly fell for someone I shouldn't have. It cost Leo his life, and me my youth. As silent tears streamed down my face, my phone suddenly rang. The name Eleanor on the screen made my heart skip a beat. Clinging to a sliver of hope, I answered, only to be bitterly disappointed. Eleanor's angry roar came through, demanding, "James, Ethan and you keep out of each other's business. Why would you do something like this to him?" The accusation came so fast, it left me stunned. When I processed it, the irony was even deeper. Since leaving home, I had been at the funeral home without even stepping outside. How could I have done anything to Ethan? This was clearly just a manipulative ploy of his. The words of explanation came to my lips, but I swallowed them back. If she wouldn't even believe that Leo was dead, how could she believe my explanation? Swallowing the bitterness in my heart, I hung up, but Eleanor called again, her voice sharp with menace. She threatened, "James, I don't care where you are or what you're doing, you have to be at the hospital to apologize to Ethan within half an hour, or else, you can forget about your parents' ashes." "What did you say?" My eyes burned with fury, and I rushed to where my parents' ashes were stored, only to find the place empty. "Eleanor, where are my parents' ashes?" After gritting out that question, my throat was filled with the taste of blood, and I couldn't help but roar, "You promiscuous woman, you caused Leo's death, and now you won't even spare my parents. Eleanor, how could you sink so low?" Eleanor, however, didn't listen at all. She continued recklessly, "You knew Ethan was a paragliding coach, yet you sent someone to break his leg. James, this is the price for harming others." "You're wrong, Eleanor. This isn't the price for harming others. This is the price for loving you." After speaking in a hoarse voice, I got up and rushed to the hospital. What I saw upon entering was Eleanor sitting by Ethan's hospital bed, meticulously tending to him. Seeing me, she immediately frowned, and imperiously accused, "James, apologize to Ethan. Where are my parents' ashes?" I ignored her words, my eyes fixed on Eleanor. A flicker of guilt crossed her eyes. She took out the urn from the nightstand while lecturing me. "What's the rush? After you apologize to Ethan, I'll naturally give them back to you." Fine. At this point, my dignity was nothing compared to my parents' ashes. I no longer hesitated. I bowed my head towards Ethan and said, "I am sorry." As I finished speaking, blood couldn't be held back and spilled from the corner of my mouth. A flicker of concern crossed Eleanor's face, and she started to step forward, but Ethan grabbed her leg. "Eleanor, my leg hurts so much, and my body too. Can you take a look?" When forced to choose between the two, Eleanor never hesitated. Ethan watched Eleanor fuss over him, then shot me a mocking smile, but I no longer cared. Waiting until they were done, I spoke to Eleanor, "Can I have the ashes back now?" She nodded blankly, carrying the urn towards me. As she passed Ethan, he suddenly cried out and reached out his hand. My eyes widened, and I moved faster than I ever had in my life, but I still couldn't catch the urn before it fell. My parents' ashes turned to dust and scattered with the wind, taking with them the last bit of attachment in my heart. "Eleanor, let's get a divorce." As I finished speaking, a ray of light appeared on the horizon. It was time to say goodbye to Leo. Without hesitation, I turned and went to the funeral home. After getting ready, in just a few days, Grandpa seemed to have aged a decade, his former vitality completely gone. After forcing himself through Leo's memorial, he shakily handed me divorce papers. "I am sorry for what I've done to you, and I am sorry for Leo. James, thank you for everything you've done for the Vance family." I bowed deeply and boarded the plane for further studies abroad. After leaving the cemetery, Grandpa went straight to the hospital, and without a word, had Ethan beaten. I will absolutely not allow you to enter my Vance family home. If you dare to stir up trouble around Eleanor again, don't blame me for taking your life." Ethan was terrified into silence. Eleanor, however, was relentless. She stood in front of him, confronting Grandpa. "Grandpa, Ethan is the man I love. How could you do this to him?" "The man you love," Grandpa snorted coldly and slapped Leo's death certificate onto her face, "is the man you love the culprit, who instigated you to kill your own son." "Instigated what?" "Killed my own son, what?" "Grandpa, what are you talking about?" "I don't understand." Eleanor wanted to explain, to say that Leo wasn't dead, that it was all a conspiracy designed by James out of jealousy, but looking at the death certificate in her hand, she couldn't utter a word. "Grandpa, how could Leo be dead? You must be angry with me, trying to punish me, right? I know I was wrong. Please, bring Leo back. I promised to celebrate his birthday with him." Eleanor's voice trembled, and the panic in her heart intensified. She grabbed Grandpa's hand, hoping he would tell her it was all a joke, but William forcefully shook her off, and scolded, "Do you even remember that Leo was your son? Eleanor, you were in a coma for 7 years and never once fulfilled a single responsibility toward Leo. You finally woke up, and the first thing you did wasn't to care for him, but to take his life. How dare you call yourself a mother?" The harsh rebuke left Eleanor stunned. She remembered Leo, when he came to find her alone, his frail frame hidden beneath loose-fitting clothes. At the time, she had scoffed, mocking him, spoiled and picky, 8 years old and still eats like a little sprout. Rickling's distressed expression. Eleanor felt as if she had swallowed 10,000 needles, the pain so intense she couldn't breathe. Could it be he wasn't picky, but actually sick? "Grandpa, James said Leo had a congenital heart condition. What exactly happened?" As a mother, she knew nothing about her own child. The moment Eleanor asked that question, she realized her negligence. Her nose burned, and she wished she could go back to that moment, and take one more look at Leo. But William only sighed, and handed her another document. "I've decided that you and James will divorce. Here are the divorce papers. Take them." Lost in her grief, Eleanor suddenly looked up, her face filled with shock. "Grandpa, how could James divorce me? Are you mistaken? 8 years ago, James was just a poor graduate. He went to great lengths, marrying into the Vance family, just to live a superior life. How could he bear to give that up? And James loves me deeply. He said he wanted to live a good life with me. How could he divorce me?" Eleanor was distraught, constantly finding excuses to deceive herself. Grandpa, utterly disappointed, looked at Ethan lying on the floor and sneered. "When the Vance family was in trouble, he ran faster than anyone. Both times you were injured, James was by your side. But what about you? The first thing you did when you woke up was go to this man, cause your own son's death, and destroy James' parents' ashes. Eleanor, even the deepest love can wear away." Grandpa turned and left without looking back. His words, however, struck Eleanor like a harsh reality check, plunging her into memories she couldn't escape. Ethan, still on the floor, waited for Grandpa to leave, then immediately resorted to his old tricks. "Eleanor, my leg hurts so much, and my body too. Can you see if I am bleeding?" Normally, when she saw him like this, Eleanor would drop everything in a panic, but this time, she watched Ethan with cold eyes, showing no reaction. James never cried out in pain, and even 8-year-old Leo, dangling in the air, didn't say he was scared. Seeing her repeatedly bring up James and Leo, Ethan angrily demanded, "Eleanor, you said you'd divorce James and marry me. Isn't this perfect? Are you having second thoughts?" Eleanor had indeed thought about divorcing James, but she never imagined James would be the one to propose it first, nor did she expect to feel such deep pain. Distraught, she casually told Ethan, "Let's talk about marriage later." Then she turned and sped all the way home, opening the door with trembling hands. Eleanor felt a wave of relief. "I knew it. James loves me so much. How could he possibly divorce me?" After murmuring to herself, she called out James' name with a gentleness she had never shown before, but he wasn't in the living room, nor the kitchen, nor the bedroom. After searching the entire house and finding no trace of James, Eleanor grew increasingly panicked. When she saw the letters that Leo and James had written to her, torn into pieces and thrown into the trash, she sank helplessly to the floor, tears streaming from her eyes. Being in a vegetative state for 7 years didn't mean she had no sensation at all. Every day, Eleanor could hear Leo talking beside her bed. "Mom, I secretly ate a burger today, and Dad got really angry when he found out. Can you please wake up and pacify him?" "Mom, Dad finally agreed to let me go to school with the other kids. Mom, I got first place. But why does no one like me? They won't play with me. Mom, Mom." The child's tender voice echoed in her ears, each word a cautious hope directed at her, his mother. But what about her? Eleanor remembered how she had initially been utterly annoyed by this child. In her mind, she had cruelly answered countless times, "You deserve it. You need a good beating to learn your lesson. Even an idiot should be going to school by now. What's there to brag about? No one plays with you, because you don't fit in, right?" These unspoken thoughts had turned into resentment after she woke up. When that child came to find her, Eleanor frowned in disgust. He seemed to sense it, not mentioning himself at all, but cautiously pleading with her, "Mom, can you please come home and spend time with Dad?" She hated that a child was so meddlesome, and it just so happened that Ethan suggested Leo try bungee jumping. Eleanor agreed without hesitation, yet that child never blamed her, not even until his death. He was the child she had carried for 10 months, her own flesh and blood. Eleanor burst into loud sobs. After she had cried enough, driven by the pangs of her conscience, she drove to Leo's cemetery. On his tombstone, his smile was bright, as if he were calling out Mom over and over again. Eleanor raised her hand to touch Leo's photo. Only then, realizing that her son truly wasn't coming back, she sobbed inconsolably. Her heart shattered. Repeated apologies echoed through the cemetery. She stayed there from day to night, then returned home in a daze, wanting to talk to James. But the light that had once burned for her was now off. James hadn't come back. The thought surged through Eleanor's mind, and she hastily pulled out her phone to call him. But on the other end, only the cold, mechanical voice of the service provider answered. "Hello, the number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable." Several calls yielded the same response. Eleanor, utterly exhausted, leaned against her car for a long time before returning to the hospital. She found the nurse at the front desk and asked about James' whereabouts. The nurse looked at her with a strange expression. "Drive. James resigned a long time ago, didn't you know, as his wife." Eleanor's face flushed with a mix of red and pale, not from anger, but from shame. She truly hadn't paid much attention to James. Knowing nothing about him except that he was a doctor, she gave an awkward laugh and was about to leave when Ethan suddenly appeared from somewhere and blocked her path. "Eleanor, what took you so long to come back? I am starving waiting for you. What are we eating tonight? I want to eat that lobster bisque from that place. Why don't you have someone go buy it quickly?" Even though Ethan was acting just as he always had, Eleanor found him grating tonight. She scowled and snapped, "You're a grown man. Why are you so demanding? Can't you do anything yourself?" She finished speaking, shot Ethan a glare, and left. She sped to the Vance family estate, intending to beg Grandpa for James' whereabouts. Grandpa remained silent. After observing Eleanor for a very long time, he slowly began to speak. "Eleanor, no one will wait for you forever. From now on, Grandpa won't interfere with you. If you like Ethan, pick a date and marry him. Just don't let him meddle in the Vance family's business." With his only great-grandson gone, Grandpa was emotionally exhausted, and wanted nothing more to do with anything. Eleanor saw that Grandpa, who had firmly opposed her, and Ethan being together earlier that day, had now given in, yet she felt no joy, only panic. "Grandpa, let's discuss marriage later. Right now, I just want to find James, and talk to him properly. Please, tell me where James is." Eleanor knelt without hesitation, her demeanor sincere. Seeing this, Grandpa felt an even greater headache. "You've already caused Leo's death because of your stubbornness. Are you going to disturb James' life again because of it? You say you want to talk to him, but his stance is firm. He never wants to see you again in this lifetime. Don't you understand?" As he finished speaking, Grandpa, aided by a servant, returned to his room. As one light after another was switched off, Eleanor completely lost hope, standing rooted to the spot, tears quietly falling. Meanwhile, seeing her change in attitude, Ethan quickly called to test the waters. "Eleanor, are you busy? Why aren't you at the hospital with me? I miss you so much." Eleanor remained silent for a long time, then calmly said, "Ethan, don't say things like that anymore. I am a married woman with a son. Your son is already dead." In his haste, Ethan blurted it out, regretting it the moment he spoke. But somehow, these words triggered Eleanor. She suddenly went mad, rushing to the hospital and grabbing Ethan by the collar. "You say that again. What happened to my son?" "Ethan, if you hadn't suggested Leo go bungee jumping in the first place, how would I have done such a thing? This is all your fault." When people do something they can't accept, they instinctively shift the blame. Eleanor was no exception. She was filled with remorse, blaming Ethan entirely for her son's death, and started hitting and yelling at him like a madwoman. Ethan endured it at first, but after the pain became too much, he grabbed Eleanor's hand and flung her to the floor. "Are you crazy? Didn't you say Leo was ill-mannered and needed to be punished? Why are you acting like a saint now? Or are you trying to adopt that only realizing what you had after it's gone act? Eleanor, don't you find yourself hypocritical?" The merciless insults shattered Eleanor's last layer of pretense. She could no longer deceive herself. For the rest of her life, she would live in pain and guilt. I remained completely unaware of what was happening at the Vance family estate. After landing, I was picked up by Chris, a representative from an international biotech company, to attend a gathering. During the event, he repeatedly remarked, "I've been inviting you for 8 years, and you've finally come, James. I couldn't be happier." Their company had extended an offer to me when I graduated, but to repay Grandpa for his kindness of sponsorship, I stayed in the country and married Eleanor. Then, I spent 8 years delayed by her treatment. "My apologies," I said, raising my glass. "I am grateful your company is so generous and still willing to take me in." Chris waved his hand, and the meal was thoroughly enjoyed by all. After dinner, he suggested I rest, but I refused and went straight to the company. Ever since Leo passed, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Whenever I paused, my sorrow only grew, so I decided it was better to keep busy. I quickly immersed myself in work, dedicating myself to researching medication for heart disease, hoping there would be fewer children like Leo in the world. Half a year later, during a seminar, there was a commotion outside the door. The security guard looked at me, with a complicated expression. "Mr. James, there's a woman outside claiming to be your wife. She forced her way in and says she won't leave until she sees you." "Wife?" The attendees began whispering and buzzing with speculation. "James, I've never heard that you had a wife. What's going on?" I murmured an apology and stood up, walking towards the door. Eleanor saw me and was ecstatic. "James, you really are here. I finally found you. How could you leave without a word?" Eleanor bombarded me with a string of questions. I laughed at her pretense of ignorance. Looking closely, I saw that her once well-maintained hair was now streaked with white, making her look years older. "Karma, indeed." I scoffed and spoke coldly. "Does Vance need something from me?" Eleanor looked deeply hurt, and her steps forward halted. "James, we're husband and wife. Do you have to use such a distant address? I divorced you long ago. What kind of husband and wife are we?" Her acknowledging me as her husband was something I had longed for every day, but now, hearing it made me feel nothing but disgust. I frowned in displeasure. Eleanor looked as if she had been struck. "James, what happened back then was my fault. I've been looking for you all these years, trying to make amends." "No need," I interrupted before Eleanor could finish. Her casual words filled me with even more disgust. "If you make amends, will Leo come back?" "Eleanor, if you leave now, we can at least maintain some semblance of civility. But if you insist on making a scene, don't blame me for being merciless." I dreamed of revenge, but Leo's dying words had stopped me countless times. But now, Eleanor was arrogantly trying to get close to me. Did she really think I was the same James as before? After I finished speaking, I returned to the seminar. Eleanor seemed surprised by my words, freezing in place and not following me. After the seminar, I immediately rushed back abroad, treating the incident as a minor interruption. Not long after, the person I loathed showed up at my door. Ethan, with the same arrogant and overbearing attitude as before, threatened me. "James, I advise you to stay away from Eleanor, or don't blame me for making you regret it." "How exactly do you plan to make me regret it?" I looked up from my work, my gaze fixed on Ethan. The desire for revenge for my son surged within me. I wanted nothing more than to chop him up and feed him to the dogs. As our eyes met, Ethan snapped out of his initial shock. looking furious at me. Who are you trying to fool, James? He just a good-for-nothing who couldn't even keep his wife and child. Why would I be afraid of you? I bore some responsibility for Leo's death, and it was something that constantly gnawed at me. But I gave a cold laugh and gestured towards the door. My bodyguards, who had never thrown a punch before, streamed in and started beating Ethan relentlessly. His screams were incessant. Finally, my long-suppressed heart felt a measure of release. After was driven away, I lost all inclination to work. I went home and immediately fell asleep. After waking, I called Chris. He'll go for the domestic seminar and promotion. Avoiding it wasn't a solution. I had to face Eleanor and Ethan eventually. Leo's death also needed an explanation. After the arrangements were finalized, I boarded a flight back home and rented a house near Leo's cemetery. Grandpa received the news and personally came to invite me to dinner at his home. It was hard to refuse. After 8 years, I found myself sitting at the same table as Eleanor again. She had shed her former arrogance, nervously rubbing her hands as she served me food. James, this is your favorite dish. Eat more. Grandpa also tried to smooth things over. Eleanor made this herself, knowing you were coming. Go on, try it. When was alive, he often said he wanted to eat his mother's cooking, but he never got to taste it, not even until his death. Eleanor, do you even know what Leo liked to eat? The smile on her face froze. Grandpa's expression also turned despondent. Our family has wronged you and Leo. But James, the dead cannot be brought back to life. You have to look forward. How could I be at peace when the culprits were living healthy lives in this world? The meal tasted like sawdust. After barely 10 minutes, I stood up and left. Eleanor chased after me, grabbing my hand and pleading, James, I truly know I was wrong. Ive also cleared things up with Ethan. Please, give me another chance. Sure, I said lightly. Eleanor's eyes lit up with excitement. Unless you die, or Ethan dies. The latter half of my sentence extinguished the light in Eleanor's eyes. She stumbled back 2 steps, covered her face with a bitter laugh, and screamed at me, do you think I am not heartbroken? Leo was my child too. Ever since he died, Ive lived in constant pain and guilt, unable to sleep at night, dreaming only of that child calling me Mom. I personally caused his death. My guilt is far heavier than yours as a father, but what can I do? I was deceived too. It was from Eleanor's disjointed description that I finally learned Ethan had lied to her, claiming that I, in collusion with Grandpa, had driven him away just so I could usurp his place. Eleanor had believed him, seeing me as the culprit who broke up their lovebirds, and after waking, she was eager to make it up to him. Consequently, she had less patience for Leo, our son. I already had Ethan beaten half to death, and he lost his job. James, what else do you want from me? Her emotional outburst, coupled with her continued attempt to shift blame, infuriated me further. I roared back, not enough. It's nowhere near enough. Ventilating the hatred in my heart, I pointed at Eleanor and gritted through clenched teeth, you all deserve to die. Leo was so young. He had so much of a beautiful life yet to experience. And even if he had waited just 1 more year, I would have developed the medicine to treat his congenital heart disease. Do you have any idea that Leo could have lived a normal life? My roar startled Eleanor. She froze, tears streaming down her face. It's my fault, it's all my fault. Eleanor whispered the words repeatedly, stepping back weakly. Lying awake at night, James' words replayed in her mind, the thought that Leo could have lived a normal life, only to have it ruined by her in the final stages of waiting, left her breathless with anguish. When dawn broke, Eleanor made a final decision. She consolidated all her shares in the Vance family, and unconditionally transferred them to James. She also transferred all their marital assets to James' name, leaving with nothing. After completing all this, Eleanor took out the divorce papers from her drawer and signed them. From then on, Eleanor and James would have no further connection. After asking her secretary to deliver everything to James, Eleanor called Ethan. Ethan's confident voice immediately came through. So, Eleanor, regretting it now? I knew you'd come back to me, eventually. Ive been waiting. Eleanor's heart felt like it was being torn apart. Only now did she fully realize what kind of person she had clung to for years. She composed herself and pretended that Ethan had guessed correctly. You've always been the one who understands me best. Ethan's doubts vanished, and when Eleanor asked him to meet, he agreed without hesitation. Eleanor, If this is an apology, you have to make some kind of gesture, won't you? His suggestive words rang out from the other end, but Eleanor merely smiled faintly. Of course, she arranged for them to meet at the place where Leo had gone bungee jumping. She changed into her clothes and waited for Ethan on the bungee platform. When he arrived, she suggested, "Ethan, let's go bungee jumping together." Ethan didn't suspect a thing. He was familiar with almost all the equipment there, and he usually met Eleanor at this spot. After being strapped into the safety harness, he plunged down without hesitation. The feeling of freedom relaxed him. He looked up at Eleanor, waving and cheering. "Eleanor, come on down." Eleanor's smile was bright, but as she smiled, her eyes welled up with tears. "Ethan, I am responsible for Leo's death, and so are you. Now you go first, and I'll follow." With that, she bent down, meeting Ethan's terrified gaze. The sharp utility knife soared at the tether cable. With each cut, Eleanor's heart felt a little lighter. Ethan struggled desperately, and the more he struggled, the faster he fell. He closed his eyes in terror, cursing Eleanor. "I curse you to a terrible death." Eleanor remained unfazed. After doing it, she spread her arms, ready to jump down herself, but then felt someone grab her. James. After receiving all the documents Eleanor had sent via her assistant, I realized something was wrong. Once my assistant tracked her whereabouts, my suspicions were confirmed. She intended to take Ethan down with her, but had once said he hoped his mom and dad would be healthy and live long lives. I couldn't let Eleanor die. In the nick of time, I grabbed the edge of Eleanor's clothes. She froze, then turned, looking at me in disbelief. "James, you've forgiven me, haven't you?" "Never," I said coldly. Eleanor gave a self-deprecating laugh, then eagerly asked, "Even if I've avenged Leo? Even if you've avenged Leo? No matter what, my Leo wouldn't come back, so how could I forgive?" After pulling Eleanor back to the ground, I took out my phone and called the police. She sat there with me, stunned, and asked calmly, "Why didn't you let me die?" "You can die, but not in Leo's name," I said coldly, meeting Eleanor's surprised gaze. "A single charge of premeditated murder would be enough for you to pay with your life." Perhaps knowing her fate, my heart was strangely calm at that moment. Responding to Eleanor's questions, I told her some stories about Leo's childhood. When the police arrived, she didn't resist, smiling as she left with them. As she left, she looked back and smiled at me. "If I can see Leo, I'll definitely make it up to him, but what I hope most is that he won't see me, his mother, again. I am not worthy, and James, I am sorry." She bowed deeply to me, her eyes full of sincerity. The day before Eleanor's trial, I dreamt of Leo. He was healthy and happily playing with children his age. He ran up to me, his face beaming with excitement. "Dad, I've made so many new friends. They all gather around me, and they said they want to come to our house to see you and Mom. I didn't know if it was what you think about all day, you dream about at night, or if my long-held wish had finally come true, but happiness in that moment was more important than anything." When I woke up, I washed the pillow soaked with tears and went to court. Because of the premeditated murder and Ethan's death, Eleanor was unequivocally sentenced to capital punishment. Grandpa suffered a heart attack and was admitted to the hospital. The vast Vance family was left without a successor. After transferring all his shares to me, he went to a temple and no longer concerned himself with worldly affairs. As for Eleanor, the day before her execution, I sent her the diary with phonetic spellings that Leo had written. She cried as she read the diary, then left, carrying Leo's most beautiful wishes. From then on, there was peace and solitude. On the path of life, I was left to walk alone.